Well, greetings. As we continue on with the study of world religions, we're going to move from the introductory lectures to talking about the status of religion in the world. In the last lectures, we were talking about the different ways people explain away religion or explain how religion came into being, whether it's a subjective psychological approach, evolutionary approach, or looking at monotheism as God is real and has built into humanity the need for religion. So now we're going to move to one of the myths that people say, well, the world's not very religious. Well, the world is extremely religious, and we're going to see that in this presentation. So let me share this screen with you, see if I can get this going. Here we go. All right, so we're going to talk about status of world religions. So this is going to give you kind of an overview of just how religious the world is, but it also give you some information about where Christianity is in the mix and the needs that are there for evangelizing, continuing to evangelize the world, as that is an essential part of Christianity. So if you were to look at the world population as of 2020, it would be 7.7 billion. They estimate in 2022, 7.96. Religious population of that is 6.9 billion. 90% of the world's population claims some form of religion. The non-religious, which gets a lot of play in the media today, and we could talk about here in the U.S., secularism is much more prevalent as it is in Western Europe. But we need to keep in mind that that still makes up a very small portion of the total world population. Notoriously, the people are religious. You beginning to see shifts in population from a rural area to urban areas. So now you have a majority of people living in urban population centers with 55.7%. And then you see there the rural population has dropped to 44.4. But if you talk about the fact that for Christians, how much of the world still needs to be reached, 28% of the world, or 2 billion plus people in that regard. If you were just to list a lot of the religions here, I think I will list 19 different religions, 8 here and some on the next slide. You'll notice that Christianity is the largest religion with 2.5 billion, and with Islam not real far behind, but 1.9 billion. Then it drops significantly down into Hinduism, and then secular, non-religious or agnostic, atheist, 1.1 billion. And then you have things like new religions, like New Age, Scientology, stuff like that would fall into the next category. And notice Buddhism is quite a ways down. Chinese traditional, which is declining significantly. Same with primal indigenous religions. They have been declining. A lot of people in those religions are becoming Christians. Then you have smaller religious groups, world religions such as Sikhism, Judaism, Baha'i, Jainism, Shintoism, and so forth. And so that's just to give you an idea of the different religions and their size, but also to tell you the world is just very religious, and people just tend to look beyond themselves, are looking for something other than just this physical realm. And that shouldn't surprise us as Christians to realize that, God has kind of implanted in us the idea of being religious or the need to look beyond ourselves. And so I think that's just part of being humans created in the image of God, as the Bible teaches. Here you just a pie chart based on 2013 statistics on the percentage of the world. You know, it's 33% Christianity, Islam 24, next one up Hinduism, and then the non-religious. as the years go by up into 2020 and 2022, there's a shift, and you'll see a slight decline in Christianity and a slight uptake in Islam. Uh, Hinduism stays basically pretty close to the same, 13, but you'll see a change in non-religion, and then the primal indigenous and Chinese religions, traditional religions, are declining. But that's to give you just a bird's eye view. If you look at Pew Research, this is something they did in 2015, and where they talk about the percent of the world population, 31.2%, and Muslim 24.2, similar to the statistics we just saw. And notice here they have unaffiliated. This could be atheists, agnostics, but people just say, I'm not in religious. I'm just not. They call them nuns these days, not N-U-N, but N-O-N. Hinduism, the Buddhism, and folk religion, and so forth. Much of what like we saw. Here's an interesting chart to look at the changes in religions from 1900 to 2019. And so here you would see the world population in 1900 to here, quite a big difference. Well, for Christianity, the percent of the population in 1900s was 34.4%. Now, by 2019, it dropped to 32.8. But notice the change for Islam, 12.4% of the population, 24.2. This is one of the larger changes in this thing, along with the non-religionists here, from 0.2% to 11.1%. And this non-religious includes agnostics and atheists, but there are the nons involved as well. And so these two here, the Muslim and the non-religious, you're seeing a fairly big change there. Hinduism staying fairly close to the same. Buddhism's pretty much the same. Chinese traditional and other traditional religions, these are where you're seeing the decline. Many of these are becoming Christians, some Muslim in the process. And you can see that, the percent population, Judaism has dropped significantly as well. So this kind of gives you, 119 year perspective of some of the change. Here from 1900 to 2025, this is being an extrapolation of if the growth or non-growth of a religion continues as it currently is tracking, by 2025, this is what you would expect to see. And so you have the Buddhist here, and they'll decline, continue a slow decline. Hindus here, they stay pretty much the same, a little uptake, but partly that's mainly just due to population growth. And for Hinduism, basically to be a Hindu, you have to be born through one of the reincarnation cycles. But if you look at evangelicals here, you can see that they have a steep climb here. They're continuing to grow, as opposed to Christianity in general, which has been declining. But here it's showing maybe a little resurgence here. But on the other hand, if you look at Islam, and it's continuing to grow here at faster than Christianity. Now, a lot of their growth is population growth. So their countries have become more wealthy, and therefore they tend to have more children. But either way, it gives us an idea that Christianity in some areas is declining. In other areas, like sub-Saharan Africa, is growing very quickly. All right, one of the areas that we look at is what we call the 1040 window. It's this rectangular area here that's over there is North Africa, Middle East, and Asia. It's approximately between 10 degrees north and 40 degrees north latitude. The 1040 window is often called the resistant belt and includes the majority of the world's Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists. So when, as Christians, looking at where the areas that we have the most need to reach people, it falls within this 1040 window. And so you can see there's some information about missionaries and things here, but these are the countries that are most resistant, or by the politics, their government does not allow outreach in those areas. And so they're difficult to get in and share the gospel. In fact, it is against the law in a lot of them. So, but this would, the vast majority of people who are not Christian fall in this area. Here it is again with a different perspective, this 1040 window here, and you can see here the red, the 65 to 100% are unevangelized. Then the orange here, 30 to 65% are unevangelized. Then you get a little bit lower, unevangelized 10 to 30% like here in China and so forth. China actually is growing quite quickly in Christianity. It's hard to get numbers from there because the government's not open to a lot of it, but from all the indicators we have, there's a large Christian population growing there. But this is another way of looking at the needs of these areas. But if you look down at sub-Saharan Africa here, this is Kenya where we used to live, you'll see they fall in this category, most of them except this one, Tanzania. 0 to 10%. That's Christianity is moving from the primal traditional religions to Christianity primarily, although there are Muslim aspects here, especially here in Tanzania. All right, here you just have the top 10 unevangelized countries. Here you can see India, some of their people groups make up almost 1/3 of a billion. China, same thing. And Pakistan, Indonesia, Iran. Notice how these are all falling within 1040 window. North Africa, Algeria, Morocco, and then back to India area, Bangladesh, then the Middle East, Afghanistan. And so we need to realize that, although Christianity is the largest world religion, there are still a lot of areas that Christianity still needs to reach. Now, one of the ways to look at how religious the world is to see the disbursement. These are some disbursement maps. If you were just looking at Hinduism, it's not highly dispersed throughout the world. It's mainly right here in India. And, you have, like even here and where we are in Montgomery, Alabama, there's Hindu temple and a few others, but it's a very small minority of people. The vast majority would be found here. So this disbursement shows you just how located something is or not located, as the case may be. Here's Buddhism. You can see that in Indonesia area and China and Japan, a lot of Buddhism, but outside of that, it's just scattered. These little dots over here show some in the U.S. and over here in Europe, but for the most part, it is also located. It's not highly dispersed throughout the world. One that is a little more dispersed is Islam, and you can see North Africa here. There is a lot of desert up in here, but along the coast, strong and on into the Middle East. But really strong areas right down here in Indonesia, highly Muslim area, probably, in fact, more densely populated Muslim groups than in a lot of the Middle East. So, but you can see the surface still is not worldwide so much as we see in the next slide with Christianity. Notice Christianity highly dispersed throughout the world, much more so than Islam. You can see here sub-Saharan Africa, but notice that again, that 1040 window there again comes up here in this disbursement graph. All right, another way of looking at it is the majority of religions. You can see here Christianity, which is in the red. The lighter the red, the the less density. So you can see like Christianity in Mexico is a lot denser than Christianity in mainland United States or in Canada. And the same goes down here in Africa where there's a lot of Christianity now, very strong in a place like Kenya, but yet when you get up here, that changes colors to the Muslim colors. And then you can see some Buddhism over here, and then some Hinduism here, and so forth. But this is another color graphic to kind of give you an idea. But notice the world just is notoriously religious, and we need to keep that in mind. It's just a matter of what religion, and of course, as Christians, we're looking towards, helping people to see the value of the Christian religion. Well, this regional distribution of Christianity might be helpful to some. The idea is out of the population of the world for Christianity, you have this many 266,000 or 267,000 there, 266 million, I should say. And then down here in Latin America, 531 million, so forth. And so in North America, it represents 12.3% of the population. This was done in 2010. Need to get some more, see if we can get some updated ones on this, but this is from the Pew Research Center. Latin America is 24.4%, and then Europe, and then Sub-Saharan Africa. And notice that Sub-Saharan Africa is quite strong. It's almost now up to 1 billion people itself. But it's Middle East, North Africa, quite small. So this is just another way of looking at regional distribution of Christianity. All right, this graphic deals with world Christian population by regions and the numbers, but it's giving an estimate to 2010. This was, let's see, it was done 2012, and by 2020, I think this was what this one was. You'd have Europe here, 76%. You got North America, 77% here. And so it's just kind of giving you an overview of the percentage of people that will be religious, given a, looking towards the future as we go forward. Another 10 countries with the largest Christian population. You notice the United States is the top of that. That's the main reason I gave you this, is to just realize that Christianity by far is the one that's most prevalent in the U.S. And so just keep in mind, again, it goes back to realizing that the world is a very religious place. Here we have the regional distributions of Muslims. So you can see not much in North America and Latin America, but highly in the Pacific Rim or Asia or Pacific, and then the Middle East, of course. You do have a good number of Muslims in Sub-Saharan Africa along with Christianity. And so that is another area of growth. All right, so if you just took of unaffiliated, those who would say I'm agnostic or atheist, or I just not religious, none, as it's often called, you can see a lot of falls in this area, Asia Pacific. If they're not Muslim, they may fall more in that category. Not much in sub-Saharan Africa. Most people are religious and strongly religious. Same with the Latin America, Caribbean. You see a larger percentage of people that are secularists in Europe area, especially Western Europe, and then a growing number in North America. And so it's to keep in mind that that uh, there are changes going on, and we do see a move in the U.S. to move towards secularism, and that's probably for Christians the most challenging aspect out there these days. And we will be covering some of that later on in the course. This graph is the growth of Islam and Christianity in sub-Saharan Africa. The southern hemisphere, as far as Christianity is concerned, is growing very rapidly, much more so than Islam. So you see here Christianity in sub-Saharan Africa really is moving up. Now, Islam is too, but not to the degree of Christianity. Christianity is seen by people in sub-Saharan Africa is much more in tune with their thinking and um, the what it provides for life and hope is something they really can see in Christianity. And you see the traditional religion in the meantime is dropping significantly. A lot of people in traditional African religions see the connection between their religion and Christianity. So that's one of the reasons it's growing. Christianity is growing there. So that's in that area. I keep looking at the wrong slide here. All right, so another map here, a global map where it shows the different religious groups in different colors. And of course, you can see they break down Christianity in Catholic and Protestant, and then they even have Eastern Orthodox, which would be over in this area more. But the Catholic here would be blue, and then the red, dark red, or maroon would be uh, the Protestant aspect of it. So just another way of seeing how religious the world is. Then if you just look at the US, on this from Pew Research in 2020, you can see they have Christianity at 71.5%, a little down since the 2010 one we looked at earlier. Non-religious, secular going up. This is the nons. In other words, you can include atheists and agnostics. They say, I'm not religious. Okay, I'm an atheist or I'm agnostic. But a lot of them is just people who say, I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I'm not affiliated with a church. But that doesn't mean they don't have a belief system or that they're not spiritual, or they may even have a particular Christian belief, but they just don't associate with a particular religious, Christian religious group. Then you can see Judaism is relatively small, Islam even smaller, and Buddhism and others even smaller in the United States. And this last slide right here is just looking at the distribution of evangelicals in sub-Saharan Africa and in Africa and then North America, Latin America, and Europe. Even though Christianity is tending to decline, evangelical Christianity has not been declining like the mainline Christian churches. We are seeing, starting to not grow as fast, and that is a concern that we have to be aware of. But in other areas of the world, like Africa, it's still growing quite substantially, and in Latin America as well. So that's kind of a synopsis overall of the idea that the world is notoriously religious, and we don't want to buy into the myth that the world isn't. And there is this secular type of teaching that is kind of pointing out that the world is not that religious. But really, the truth of the matter is, you can't understand cultures, you can't understand societies without understanding the impact of religion. And so that's one of the areas we'll be looking at. So that brings this video to an end, and I know you'll be looking for the next one soon, and we'll have that out, and we'll be dealing then with worldviews and kind of getting our heads around what a worldview is and how it differs from religion and culture and so forth. So in the meantime, take care, and I'll see you at the next video.